Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So hello everyone. Last time what we discussed was the general method that we normally take up for cognitive analysis, right? So we discussed about interview, we discussed about content analysis. Today we are going to discuss about the focus group. So what exactly this particular method is and how do we take up this type of tool for our study, and what are the benefits of this particular type of tool or techniques. Okay, so let us first understand the little bit history and type of this particular method. So it's very simple way for evaluating the any kind of software or any other products that we normally develop and try to get information that how the users or end users are thinking about that product. Okay, so it may start for the initial stage. In the initial stage, like if you want to understand the understand about a particular product at the initial stage before intervention, or at the end also when you have developed a new product, when you have developed a new method or new intervention, then also you can take up this tool for evaluation. Okay, so normally, as its nomenclature says, that it's a focus group, right? So it's a group of people to whom we are going to interview it. Its process is quite similar to the interview process, whereas in the interview process we talk in person to person, right? There is one person from whom we collect information, whereas in case of focus group, it's a group of people. So that changes the method, and of course the result and the context where we actually go for focus group. So focus group is a carefully planned group discussion. Okay, it's not that all of a sudden we thought of doing it and whoever is available, let us sit and do the study. It's not like that. It's a very much planned group discussion, and you have to design it, or you have to prepare this one for a period, or you have to prepare the setup, and then only you can have this type of data collection. Okay, of course here the person who are going to get involved in the focus group, they should be interested. Here it is very important to have some kind of informed consent for all those cases, especially for interview, observation, content analysis. Whatever we are doing, we need to understand that whenever we are collecting data or collecting information from a human, okay, so taking consent to participate in that study is very important. So for almost all cases wherever ergonomics data collections are involved, you have to take care this particular format, that is you have to brief the protocol to the participant, to the subject. We call them participant, we call them subject, or the people who are actually participating in your study. So everybody should be aware what is the motto of this particular method, or why you are collecting data, how their information will have you will maintain the secrecy of that information, like you cannot make it public individual information. It is not right. So ethically it is not correct. So you have to take care of this type of all ethical issues, and once they are convinced that yes, this particular type of information or this participating in this type of discussion is not going to harm, or they are willing to do that, then only they can participate. So a form where all these things are mentioned in a particular format, then they can sign in that form, and you can keep it as an evidence that yes, they have consented for this information. So for any individual human experiment, you should have this signed informed consent. Also, one thing everyone should remember, for this once someone is going to participate in your study, it's not that you are going to force them that if you join you have to continue for this many days, this many hours, or these many studies. It is not right. So it may happen that in between there are possibilities, for some reason, for uncertain reason, they may withdraw themselves. You should allow them to do so. Okay, you cannot force them to participate in your study. You can request, however it is not mandatory. So that point also should be available in the signed informed consent form. Okay, then they are very much comfortable, and it's not that why they are withdrawing themselves, they should be it is mandatory for them to explain. For any reason they can withdraw themselves from the study, and you have to accept that. And in some cases, that's why number of samples keeps on changing from one experiment to other experiment. Okay, so that is the that happens, and you have to accept that fact. Okay, it's not only for focus group, for any kind of human experiment wherever you are collecting data, this is mandatory. So again, coming back to focus group study, in 1991 Professor O'Donnell he elaborated that it consists of 8 to 12 members. This focus group study, when we are talking about focus group, it's important to understand how many members will be there in this particular study, right? So is it 3 members or 4 members, how many members? So he explained, or he elaborated in detail, and he mentioned that the number of people can vary from 8 to 12 members, and of course the mediator, the person who will be asking question and who will be leading the whole discussion, will be from the research group. Okay, members are a sample of the customer or the end user, of course, as I mentioned in the very beginning. It is organized into relatively homogeneous group. So the group has to be maintained. Okay. In terms of socio-economic background, in terms of education background, and many other aspects, it has to be very much homogeneous. If it is not homogeneous, the perspectives are different. Okay, perspective towards a particular product, particular concept, definitely it varies. So whenever you are collecting information or you are conducting such focus group study, the group has to be homogeneous in nature. These are more likely to produce the desired exchange of information, of course, between members, rather than a flow of information from individual member to the leader. It's like it's an exchange. So it's not that always a person from the participant is telling something to the leader or to the researcher. It's not like that. The information can flow from one member of focus group to other member. And that way we gather information. Okay, so this is very much. So how do we conduct this focus group study? It is very much experience based. Of course, initially we can train the researchers. However, it absolutely depends that how we are actually conducting the study. So depending on the conduction method, how we are starting the discussion and how we are moderating the discussion, depending on that the information or quality of information will change. So it is very much skilled based job, or you need real experience to conduct focus group study. So when we do this, what we do, we postulate a scenario or a story normally with regard to product design. So the product that you are going to evaluate, or that the concept that you are going to or you are trying to understand, so you have to build a story upon it. Okay, the scenario refers to the sequence of events that outline a person's interaction with a particular product. So if you are conducting or you are trying to understand about a mobile, it has to be all things, the scenarios will be related to the mobile phone. If it is related to a website, the scenario has to be the story that you are trying to build in the beginning of your discussion, that has to be related to that particular website. So people in every age, in every place and in every society have used stories to consider and communicate their experience. So that is allowed. Okay, specifically they are asked to use these scenarios to illustrate what is good and what is bad about the existing product, and that are directly and indirectly related to the prototype product. So similar product line will be there, and then from there, so here a product doesn't mean the typically tangible product. Product can be a service, similar service, product can be a website, many other things. Okay, so product means the ultimate design. So the interviews are taken, are then asked to use this scenario as a context within which to evaluate that particular prototyped product. So that way we can do the focus group study. So this procedure is useful in that it encourages the interviews to consider how they actually use existing product, and that these products are not really ideal. Okay, so this procedure restricts the scope of the evaluation task, which might enhance the interview's ability to complete the undertaking. So very important thought over here. The idea of the constraints might enhance such task scheme paradoxical given the widely held belief that such activity requires as few restraint as possible. Okay. So finally what happens when the scenario based procedure provides the interviews with a naturalistic communication tool. So there is a scenario and they are actually discussing about a scenario, and scenarios seems to allow people from different background to discuss that particular product by providing a common and perhaps natural sense making mechanism. So it becomes very easy. Every member of the focus group can relate themselves with that particular scenario. So then it becomes very easy for them to understand, to give the feedback on this particular aspect. Okay, so here building that story, building that scenario is very important. So it's not that at one day I suddenly realize I have to conduct a focus group study and by chance I have the homogeneous group available with me and I start doing my focus group study. It is not. You really need to postulate the whole thing beforehand. You have to keep everything ready, and then only you can conduct this particular study. So let us go by the step by step procedure, which is very important. Earlier also we did the similar thing for other tool. First is scenario generation. Second is you analyze those claims, whatever is coming out, and then you evaluate the situation. So when we are talking about scenario generation, what it is, what it says. So ask the interviewees to develop a set of uses scenario to exemplify the distinctive and typical uses situation for an existing product that are related to the product that is going to be evaluated. So if you want to evaluate a particular pen, what you have to do is you have to ask the interviews to create or to understand or design a scenario where similar type of products are being used, and the group members are somehow use that particular product, have some experience to towards that product and all. Okay, so the interviewee who is going to take, so they has to develop this particular part. Okay, the scenario could be illustrated using the task step approach. Okay, step by step. Okay, so if you want to use pen, so how do you use it? If you want to use mobile phone, what are the steps? So using mobile phone, if you want to message someone, so what are the steps to be followed? Okay, or through a storyboard. Of course, it's a very common practice, and maybe it is possible to role play. Now the last component are quite rare. Mostly we go by the storyboard type, or giving the steps of the procedure, how do we use that particular product. So each approach leads the group to focus on different aspect of their interaction. So someone may be interested when we are talking about the use of a phone, someone may be interested in the opening the cap, someone may be while writing, someone how the grip is. Okay, the interaction points will change depending on the user's interest, right? So with that particular product, and each approach encourages attention to different product characteristics, very important. So from here only we will get to know about these characteristics. Now once we have that, so of course here very important, we can have the recordings so that we can use them later. Also we can do it on the spot. Okay, but as we have a video recording facility, audio recording facilities, normally we practice to record them. Okay, so how do we do this claim analysis? So ask the interviewees to identify the features of these products that they consider very much significant. So it's absolutely on the participants. Okay, so they are the owner of the whole study here. Okay, so we ask them that what are the significant considerations they have. Okay, so one approach of performing this particular activity is to use large sheet of paper on which the group will write a title to define a particular feature. So those information later we can use it. So that is also possible. Also we can have the recording. So having written this particular type of features on the top of the sheet, the group then generates comments about this particular feature. So one person write about one particular feature, another about another feature. So we will have maybe 4 or 5 features of a single product from different group members, right? So it may happen that kind of feature which the designer himself or herself may not thought of. However, it can come up from the focus group discussion, because the participants or end users are open to think. Okay, so here is the beauty of this particular tool. So for each comment, ask the participant to determine whether it is good or desirable, or whether it is bad or undesirable. So you just take opinion on the on those particular concept. Okay, it might be useful to divide the paper into 2 columns maybe positive and negative, or you can have common and then later you can understand, or you, depending on the type of information that you have received, you can segregate them. Okay, based on this segregation you have varieties of feature. So you know at the end that what you need to take, what you need to discard. So that type of thing can generate after this analysis. And in the evaluation phase, so you introduce the interviews with the alternative concept. So you have all the earlier concept, earlier products, now you have your own, the new one, whichever you have generated. Okay, so now you introduce that, and these concept might be the result of design team activities or might arise from the previous focus group. It's absolutely depend, like you conducted one focus group earlier and you have some information, from there you developed a particular product and now you are going to again test it with the other group member, other focus group, and then you try to take view that how differ it is or how improved it is. Normally definitely we always try to improve our product, right? So any features which are positive in nature we try to incorporate, and the features which are negative in nature we try to remove them. So whichever are positive, so we must have incorporated in the new design, and we are going to test it that this is being accepted by this particular focus group member of the focus group or not. So ask the group member to rescript their scenarios. They have developed their own scenarios earlier with the earlier products. Now let them rescript it with the current product. Okay, so replacing the existing product with the new product and evaluate how its features would emphasize or de-emphasize, whatever. Okay, so depending on the what product it is, what feature it is, the pros and cons, whatever they have identified earlier. So what will happen at the end, you will have a comparison that what was there and what was new, what was good, what was bad. Okay, have you was it like could you remove that bad information or bad or negative things from the new concept, or you have you introduced something good into that new concept. So you will get more clarification on these points. So what are the advantages? So group interviews allow the researchers to survey a large number of opinion quickly. So it's a group, right? It's a group of 8 to 12 members. So if you have a large group, you understand it really represent that particular user group. So within a very short period of time you have a very quick view that how do you collect that particular information. Okay, how good your product is. So group interviews can also overcome two of the problems associated with individual interviews, that normally it happens that when you are doing one-to-one interviews it is not possible, so you take lot of time. Here at one go you get several information within short span of time. However, there are disadvantages. It is not always so people will definitely always go for focus group. It's not like that. Depending on the context, depending on the product, depending on the type of evaluation you are looking for, you have to choose. You should go for the personal interview or you should go for the focus group. It's not that always it is advantageous. There are some disadvantage to this particular tool as well. So what is disadvantage? The analysis of the data derived from the group interviews can be time consuming very much, okay, because if you have n number of information, so if you are looking for a focus group discussion and the discussion must have continued for 20-25 minutes, it's a large data set, right? So you have you should have enough time or enough skill to segregate those data, segregate those information, and you get the data. So these are some disadvantage. Whereas in case of interviews, you have very specific, if you have a structured questionnaire, you know what you are going to get out of this particular interview. Even if you spend 20 minutes time for a particular structured interview, at the end you know what are the data is coming, right? You have already method to extract that, but here it becomes little difficult in some cases when the group is big and number of points discussed is more. Then in those cases it is little difficult. Okay, let us take some example. Now here again I ask every participant over here that do this particular study, or you practice this at home, using a particular product you must have developed earlier, or just an example, you take, so previous version and the new version you take and you do the study and then you continue. Okay, so you practice that how it is possible. So if you don't get 8 to 12 members, maybe you can practice for 4-5 members. However, it is advised that you go for the 8 to 12 members. Okay, now let us take the example. So example of electronic wallet intended to replace the traditional wallet. Okay, so this particular, so we have designed that particular electronic wallet, whereas we are trying to replace the traditional wallet. So the objective of the following case study was to evaluate a particular electronic wallet prototype. So we know how the traditional wallet works. Okay, so we have varieties of traditional wallet, whereas we have designed an electronic wallet. So 4 individual groups of 6 interviewees were asked to develop the scenario exemplifying how they currently use the wallet, okay, traditional wallet, and the electronic banking products like ATM and internet banking product. So they have been asked to develop such scenarios. Here 4 focus group. Okay, so number of people in each group I have not mentioned here, but group number of groups were 4. So these the interviews were given pens, pencil, paper and instructed to illustrate their usage scenario. Maybe if required the illustrations, maybe they can draw or they can write using their pen and paper. The scenarios, they can have their storyboard, they can describe it as in a step-by-step process or something like that. Okay, so the participants were then asked to identify features of these situations that they consider very significant. So here it is very important that the owner of the scenarios are the participant. They can play with it, or they really want to they are going to give you the information how the scenarios are, which portion of the scenario is very important, which one. So when we are talking about the uses of wallet, no, how do we keep money, how do we take out money, how do we keep the notes, all these things, varieties of information, they are the only owner will give the information about it. Okay, so the participants were then asked to elaborate both what is good and desirable in that particular case, like pros, and what is bad and undesirable about those features that they have identified in that particular group. Is clear? So they were introduced to an electronic wallet prototype. So once this is done, they will be introduced with an electronic prototype and instructed to evaluate how the features of the new technology would emphasize or de-emphasize the pros and cons identified earlier. So they have their traditional wallet experience, and there they have identified all the pros and cons. Now they have introduced with the new technology and new product, that is the electronic wallet, and then they can compare and they are being explained that how you are going to use that electronic product. Now they are being asked that what are the pros and cons they developed in earlier in traditional is matching to this new product. If it is exactly match, then it's like something you need to really work on. However, it is expected in the new design, the number of pros has been increased and cons has been reduced. It is expected. Okay, so depending on the type of product, the percentage will change. So two of the features, storage and access, here in this particular example was discussed and that were identified by the participants. So in this particular example, they discussed about only storage and access of the wallet, not the other features. Okay, so here they have identified pros and cons about the storage and access on the traditional wallet and the electronic wallet. So then definitely they have compared it and they have come out with the result. Now if we talk about the related method, so focus groups, the closest is the individual interview, as I mentioned earlier also, that in individual interview you get information from a single person, whereas in the focus group you get information from the group of people, right. So in that case it becomes very easy for you to have common understanding, common data. So this is very useful tool in the field of design. Okay, so when we really develop new product, we go for this type of tool very fast. It's we gather information very fast. Okay, so and it's testing your prototype also becomes much easier if you go for this type of method. Okay, so reliability and validity, the lack of standardization that it implies inevitably raises the concern about reliability. So as I mentioned earlier also, it's a very much skilled base. How do you really collect those information? So how do you able to scrutinize them? It's very much depending on that. And of course biasness, it's if the person who is the researcher are already biased and then they prompt the way they should look for the product to the participant, then the data becomes a little biased in nature. So these are some difficulties that we have for this type of tool. However, for a preliminary result, definitely we can take up this type of this particular tool. And of course here I would like to mention that it's not it's not a guideline that if I am going to design a product and I want to evaluate it, I should go for focus group or I should go for interview. It's absolutely depend what objective you have drawn for your study. So based on the objective only you can decide which method is suitable for you. Okay, it may happen you can have better result in the content analysis. Okay, so it's not mandatory that you go for focus group or you go for interview or observation. Okay, it's not mandatory. So what do you need for this type of study? What tool you need? The focus group requires only few pencils because you collect information from them, and of course some papers. It's always better we have a recording system, audio recording or video recording. Then later also what you can do, you can analyze the data and you can get better information. Okay. In summary, we can say focus group are designated to elicit the reactions from participants about a particular topic. It's very important, only a particular topic, okay, and to generate ideas and concepts that will help the client to understand the subject area which is under study. Now here focus group study, it's not always towards end of your research. Focus group study you can conduct at the beginning to understand the market, to understand the existing product. Also you can use the same method, that particular focus group study, to evaluate your own new designed prototype. Okay, so both the cases it is possible. Similarly, interviews also you can do, even content analysis. Okay, in content analysis also what you can do, once you have the new system, new method ready, or new process ready, or new product ready, you can test it through content analysis. Then how the whole process has been reduced, what are the benefits available for your new product, that is also possible. So all these method, starting from observation, content analysis, interview and focus group study, you can use at any point of time of your whole research. However, it is advised that we start with these types of method at the initial stage, so that we can have a broad elaboration, broad view of the context, okay, that we are going to research upon. Okay, so that's why we can start with them. Of course, we can use them at the end of the research as well. Thank you for today, and we will start more about the task analysis from the next class. Thank you.